Hey everybody, this is my sewing machine. Now I'm going to do this with a free machine embroidery foot, which is this, okay. Now if you haven't got a free machine embroidery foot, I personally wouldn't worry. You've just got to be really careful that you don't trap your finger. But we're all adults, there's no 3-year-olds here, not as far as I know anyway, not unless they've got access to the dad's credit card. The thing to remember about not having a foot, it's essential that you lower the foot. Can you see that lowering there with the lever on the back? So if you haven't got a foot on there, it's hard to remember that. But you still must remember to lower that lever at the back on your machine. That's where most problems are caused. Well, a lot of problems can be caused by not lowering that lever on the back of the machine, okay? And if you haven't got a foot on, like I say, because if I take my foot off, the needle doesn't alter at all by that action, but the internal mechanisms do, so you must always remember to do that. That's really, really important. Now on my machine, I've got a feed here, which are the teeth. So if I was sewing a hem, those teeth would feed my cloth through, wouldn't they? So for free machine embroidery, ideally, you need to be able to get rid of them. So I've got a lever over here on the right that does that. That's what came off in my hand that day that needed fixed. So lower your feet, then you're in control of the fabric. The machine isn't in control of the fabric. I do believe that 1 or 2 people, one of whom's on this course, has done it without lowering the feet by accident, and it was still doable. You know what I mean? But ideally, you need to lower your feet. Now, if you haven't got the option to lower your feed, what I've done in the past, because I haven't always had a Bernina, is I've got thin strips of masking tape and just put them across the feed like that, okay, on both sides. I'd probably put 3 pieces on top of there, sorry, 2, so there was 3 pieces in total, and that would somehow kind of knock back the effects of those teeth. But make sure you don't cover that hole where your needle goes through, because you don't want your needle going through sticky masking tape. So that's an option. Now another thing, a lot of people have problems with free machine embroidery because of thread snaps, it breaks, it can be a nightmare. I never alter my tension for free machine embroidery. I've never altered my tension since I bought this machine about 8 years ago. Most of the problems with snapping thread come from under here in your spool case, okay? Even the tiniest little bit of fluff in there can create havoc. Now I'm probably, hopefully, not going to have any because it's just come back from the shop where it's had a service. So I shouldn't have anything in there. But I would always check that first, that there's no bits of fluff. Even the tiniest bit of thread can create havoc with your stitching process. I'm just looking at my spool, it's nearly run out. It's probably going to run out while I'm doing this, but I'm not going to fill it up yet. I'll let it run out. I like to fill it fresh, if you will. I don't like to add to the top of thread that's already in there. I like it to completely run out and then fill it fresh. So check your spool casing. I don't know what's happened there. See, I can't even put my spool back in properly, so this is going to be good, isn't it? Honestly. What's happened there? That's it. It was all twisted around. And another thing you'll learn if you're new to my classes, don't necessarily do what I do. I make the stupidest mistakes sometimes. You wouldn't believe it. But I think it just goes to prove that I'm human. So my bed's on. So my feet are down. My free machine embroidery foot's on. I've got a feeling I'm going to have to move this machine perhaps to there. You can still see that, that's fine, right? So I've got too much thread there. Cut them off. I've got a little bag for rubbish that's hanging on a chair at the side of me. I try to keep control of the rubbish because I feel sorry for my poor husband. He goes to work trailing thread in his wake. Right, so then I need a hoop, okay? I just use a normal embroidery hoop. I don't use a machine embroidery hoop, and the reason I do that is because I find I can control the tension better in a normal hoop than an embroidery hoop. I just want to move this round to one side for a sec. This is a bit of like rubber or something. Put it on the table, it absorbs the vibrations. Now the thing with free machine embroidery is, I'm going to put this in the hoop, and you might be thinking, oh no, you silly woman, you've put it in the wrong way around. Well, just stay with me a minute, okay? So, you put it in the wrong way around. You put it in the opposite way, so you would put it in for hand embroidery. And it needs to be drum tight, okay? So I'm pulling this like Billy O to try and get it really, really tight in that hoop. And I'll probably try and tighten the screw a bit as well. I can't tighten the screw anymore. So that means if I was to do it like that, like normal hand embroidery, it'd be bouncing, wouldn't it, when the needle hit it. This way, your stitching is flat to the bed of your machine and there's no bouncing going on. So you put it in your hoop so that it's within the internal area of your embroidery hoop. Okay, so I'll just bring this back round. So now what I'm going to do, well, this is mulberry paper. Do you remember I said in the letter about what you'd need? Mulberry paper. Now this is very fine, it's the lightweight, and it's got fibres running through it that are silk fibres. It's beautiful to stitch on, especially on the machine. Those silk fibres give it a strength. It's just wonderful, flexible, beautiful. I love it. And the bonus is it damp stretches beautifully without wrecking. If you haven't done damp stretching, I'll do some damp stretching and demonstrate that for you. If you were just damp stretching a piece of tissue paper or printer paper, I'm sorry, but it would wreck it. It would absolutely ruin it. It would pulp, wouldn't it? This just doesn't do that, especially with machine stitching on it. It just keeps its form perfectly. So I've got my mulberry paper. I've got my embroidery in a hoop. I'll put it under there. Now I'm going to show you at some point. I want to make sure that you can see this, but I also need to be able to stitch on it. Right, at some point I'm going to show you a piece of embroidered cloth completely covered in mulberry paper, and I'm going to do something with that. But for this one, because it's so three-dimensional, I'm going to tear bits of mulberry paper off and add them as I go, okay? Random tearing. Now the thing about me as well is I don't like straight edges like that. I really don't like them. So I'm going to tear that off because I don't want anything like a perfect straight line on here to take my eye away from everything else that's going on. So I'm just going to tear randomly, well not randomly, they need to fit in these spaces, bits of mulberry paper. And I'm kind of placing it 1/8 of an inch away from that first bit of stitching that I can see there, okay? So now for FME, you hold on to your top thread. This is how you start off. Hold on to your top thread. I'm not going to put my foot down yet. Put your needle through and bring it back, okay? Hold on to that, pull your thread and your bobbin thread comes through to the surface of your work. That is essential. So you've got two threads here, you've got your bobbin thread and your upper thread, and you hold them in your hand, hold on tight for grim death. Put your foot down, that's essential, and always, always start with your needle in your work, okay? Now what I'm going to do now, you might not hear me speak when I'm machine stitching. If I've got a light on this machine, do you know what? It's not even plugged in. So I'm going to have to turn off and go and plug it in. I told you, for you newbies, think, oh, I want my money back, she's rubbish. Honestly, I wouldn't blame you. Right, I'm just going to turn off and plug this machine. I can't believe I didn't even plug it. Well, I can. That's the tragic thing. So that's another £1 in the jar, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. So I won't be a sec, I'll just plug it in. Plugged in, I can't believe I did that. And I was thinking to myself then, Karen, this morning you sound so professional, and it's so obvious you've got newbies in this class because you're trying to be so proper and correct and perfect, and I don't know, because everybody else just knows how useless I am. And I forgot to plug it in. And the £1 thing is because you'll find, this is only a 2-week class, but believe me, some people suffer this torture for months. If you were in Simply Stitch 4 or something, I always forget something. I either leave my ruler in the other room, I don't bring my needles through, I forget my pins. So I said I'm going to get a jar, and for every time I forget something, I'm going to put £1 in that jar. And it'll go towards a big school trip where we hire a charabanc, which is a coach. And in fact, we can all go to Glastonbury. By the time, it'll only take a week with all the pounds I have to keep putting in that jar. I'll have money for like 40 people to go to Glastonbury. Right, so get yourself together, Karen. Compose yourself. You've got new people in this class who have yet to form an opinion of you. Right, so I have a light on this machine. I don't use it on video because I don't think it helps you. It helps me, but it doesn't help you. So I'll suffer so that you benefit. See, I'm selfless to the last. Right, so what I'm going to do, basically, check your stitch length, check that you're not in zigzag mode, okay? Check that your teeth are down, get ready to go. I'm literally just going to do loads of little circles of machine embroidery on here, and I may not speak to you while I do that, but I will hopefully stop regularly. If I don't get carried away, I'll hopefully stop regularly to update you on what's going on in my mind, as if you really want to know anyway. Right, so I'm going to start just circles, okay, and hang on tight to these. Right, so now you cut those off. Now they're secured, you cut those off, and I'm just looking there, there's something wrong with that. That looks very dark to me, and I'm wondering if in the shop, have they changed my spool thread in the shop? Because that looks very, very dark to me. I'm going to have to undo everything and have a look at that, because look at that, it looks like green. Don't ask me what that is all about. No, my spool thread's white. I have no idea what's happened there. So do you know what I'm going to do? I don't know what to do actually. I wonder if it's oil. If they've oiled it. How to ruin my day from an embroidery point. Look at the bottom, it's oil. I can't believe that. Oh. If I'd have checked for that, would I have known about that? That's what I don't know. Right, let me get something to machine. I'll show you how versatile this is. I'll machine stitch on this for a bit, folded over a bit of this, and try and feed all that through. Because that's devastating, really. Really. It's retrievable. I'll show you how I'll retrieve it in a minute, but just let me do a little bit on here, just without a hoop, just to see if I can get rid of that oil. It's green, isn't it? That's outrageous. I'm wondering, wipe the needle. I don't know that it's on the needle. You know, I always say this, and it is true. I'm actually glad this has happened to me, because it'll give you. There's something wrong with the leg of my camera. That's sliding down there. It keeps sliding down. I'm actually glad this has happened to me, because it'll be a warning for you, and I'll certainly learn from it. She said to me at the shop that they ran it off, but obviously not enough. I'm just going to keep stitching here until this is, until it looks okay. I think I'm there. I think that we're okay now looking at that there. So yeah, let that be a lesson to you as well. So that is retrievable. I can go back and retrieve that, and I'll explain to you how. I don't know that there's any more mechanisms I can wipe clean apart from the needle, because I don't want to be wiping my spool case clean, because I might alter the mechanisms of it. Let's hope. Okay, and let's hope that you learn from that. Right, so I'm going to go back on here, and I can't believe I've got oil on my silk. Can you imagine? I should be crying about that, you know, really. Where's the tears, Karen? Good job this isn't a commission that I've been paid hundreds of pounds for, isn't it? Right, so I'm just going to get another bit of paper and put it over the top of that. Okay, double it. It'll just add more texture. 2 bits of paper on the top. So the first thing I need to do is bring my thread through from the bottom. But yeah, I mean, nobody died. A couple of years ago, you know, I would have been in tears about that. I've come a long way. So let's start again. Circles. Right, and once that's secure, cut it off. Yeah, I think that's fine now. There's no green there at all. Phew. But let that be a lesson to everybody. My incompetence is your good luck information. Right, now you might find while you're doing this that the back of your foot's pushing against the embroidery. That's a good thing, because that means it's really going to be integrated. You're not going to have a line where they're definitely separated. You know what I mean? It'll be more organic, it'll look more natural if they're this paper's encroaching on that embroidery. Until your paper's secure. I do it quite heavily. Now you might notice here that it's climbing up the side of that motif, so all I'm going to do, it's really flexible, is just move it with my fingers and then catch it down, and if it catches down in a haphazard way, so much the better, because that maintains that organic nature of this. Okay, then over here, again, just pull it round there. Still not 100% convinced about the oil. No, I think it's okay. So really, you just need to do this a lot. I'm going to pull this off now, because I don't want it going over the top of that. But that's the beauty of this paper. You can just pull it off. So then what I like to do, when I get to an edge, say, where there's no paper and there's silk, I don't want to completely cover the silk, but I want any areas that are remaining silk to look as if they're naturally occurring. So I do take my sewing needle, my machine stitch, slightly off the edge of the paper to encroach on the silk a little bit, and then it looks as if it's just creeping off the paper onto the silk. So I'm thinking about this area here, because I am going to put more paper down here, so it doesn't really matter down here. So I'm literally just extending this machine stitch ever so slightly off the paper and over onto the plain silk, okay? Another thing that's throwing me is my thread colour. I ordered what I thought was white Gutterman cotton for the machine, and it's off-white. So that's why it does look a bit darker, but it's not oil. So that bit that I've just ripped off, I'm going to put that here. I'm just building it up now, okay? And I'm going to catch that with the sewing machine. My needle's in and my foot's down. And that's extending that round here. You can, if you want to, leave areas that don't have FME on, if you want more flat surface of paper, and you can hand stitch through this paper beautifully. Now I want some more for down here. Put my needle in to keep that still. So I'll get a little bit more. I need quite a narrow bit to come through that space. But then having said that, so if I do that, lift my foot up to catch it. Because don't forget, you can tear this off as you wish, as you go along. Now hopefully, like, I've got some silk here that's bare, and I've got some there that's bare, and hopefully when I get pictures of this later, the pictures that you see when I send you these videos will illustrate how it's lovely to have those little islands of silk showing through here. And by the way, you don't have to use silk, you can use cotton. It's just silk is my preferred medium. I just like it, I just love it, and even though it's expensive, well, it's just what I choose to use. I prefer it, but we all have our own things, don't we? And also the secret to machine embroidery, I should say, is fast foot, slow movement on the top. So my foot's really down, pressed down proper to the bottom on this foot. It's going really fast at the bottom, but I'm moving quite slow, if you notice. So now I need to tear paper again because I'm getting too close there. So I need to tear it off there, okay. And I'm just going to lift my foot up and turn it round so I can see it better from this way. And I'm going to come back and just work a little bit around this edge where there's a little silk island, just to integrate it. So it's time consuming, but it's so worth it, okay. If you're down there and you want to be up here, work your way in little circles, because if you just do a straight line to there, it's going to stick out like a sore thumb, so don't do that. And now I want to go over here where there's silk. And here, the silk. Now here, there's a silk space there, but I don't really like it, to be fair. For some, you'll learn this about your own work. You'll think, I don't like that area. You might not necessarily be able to pinpoint why you don't like it, but don't forget this paper tears beautifully, and you can put little bits of this anywhere you want. As long as you integrate it properly, it won't matter. So I'm just going to take my needle out. By integrating it properly, what I mean is don't just stick it on and stitch it down in a line. What I mean is put it on and integrate with the stitch to make the stitch consistent across the new piece to match with the old piece. I'm wondering if I'm bleeding, because there's like a little mark on there, but I don't think I am. Right, I don't know what that is. It's like pink. I don't know. So I'm going to cover it up just because it's annoying me. Like 3 pink dots, as if I pricked my finger. But I haven't. So again, a little bit of paper on there. Be very careful if it's little bits. Get your finger out of the way as soon as you can. Okay, so that's, and here endeth the first lesson. So you can go away and create your surfaces. You don't have to do it like this, you know. If you've got a different preferred method of hand embroidery and you don't want to do this, that's fine. Get a piece of hand embroidery, and you can just cut this off. It won't come undone because it's adhered. It's so secure with all the machine stitching that's been going on. Any piece of hand embroidery that you like, and treat it like that. Now what I'm going to do next time, tomorrow actually, is I'm going to hand stitch on this. Just what I've done so far. I'll put some hand stitch in these areas where there's silk, and I'll put some hand stitch on top of the paper, and then I'll do French knots, I'll damp stretch it for you so you can see what it looks, how you damp stretch, and then following on from that you'll get to see how it appears after damp stretching. And then going forward I want to show you another process, snippet cloth. So, you know, probably going to be coming thick and fast these videos, let's hope. So there's your first 2 or 3. I haven't decided whether to divide any of these and put them into smaller file sizes. So go away, have a ball, and I'll be back tomorrow, which will be, I don't even know what day it is today. You're getting this on Wednesday, so Thursday, if all goes to plan, you should get another one with me hand stitching on this and then demonstrating damp stretching. And don't forget, if you've got any problems whatsoever, I'm always on email. I try and get back to you as quick as I can, although bear in mind the time difference, I could be in bed, but if I'm not in bed, I'm on it, okay? So I hope you enjoyed that.